Hey everybody, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program RP-0. This is part 2 of our Extra Life recap livestream, where we are now seeking to actually complete that contract that we failed with our shuttle launch that is currently sitting at Kawaii Potato Station. So we queued up another Alt F4, altered the cargo a little bit, and started launching it into what we assume is going to be an appropriate inclination. This thing is just so fast off the launch pad, and we actually do most of the launch at like our bare minimumest throttle, and made pretty good tonnage to suborbital. We could probably lighten that up and make it a single stage to orbit rocket, but there is deployment of our Phoenix upper stage with its twinkling guiding ferry of an Estes engine. So we will be circularizing and trying to push our apogee out to the appropriate altitude, although mistimed it a little bit. We could have had it lined up a little better, so now we're just going to start tinkering with nodes. I'm very delighted to report that I actually went the correct direction, so we'll time warp on out to our perigee and then make our correction burn. It just looks so weird. So the contract was not lighting up for us and really kind of not giving us credit for any of this. Even, I mean, I don't think there was a payload requirement on this one. I don't think, but it certainly wasn't. Oh no, yeah, it was giving us some of it, but it just wasn't giving us our check on the orbit specifics or telling us that we'd reached the specified orbit, which is really frustrating because that's why I had that number box out here, made sure that our inclination is as dead on as it could be, and everything else checked out as far as the numbers, so we just force completed the contract. Call me a dirty cheater if you want, but these things are so glitched that sometimes you just have to. So we will jump back to Kawaii Potato Station and offload what meager supplies we can actually afford to jettison here, because why not keep the station topped off? It's just a good repository for sandwiches, I guess. Really, had we launched this shuttle into an orbital inclination, we could have completed the satellite contract like that, still fulfilled our 3 Kerbal to low Earth orbit contract, and done a rather interesting trek back home. But so we are going to try to return this shuttle crew as, I don't know, quickly as possible, in hopes that maybe today, after not sleeping all night and playing KSP and a few other games, that this would be the time. This would be the time we could put a Shuriken Mark 6 down onto a runway. So knowing that the Mark 6C here is considerably lighter than the normal version we fly, the Mark 6K, I did try to shoot long, and in hopes that this would, I don't know, help hitting our destination. But now as we break Atmo and make our way through, we are pushing that periapsis further and further away from Cape Canaveral, which is actually a good thing. We want the cross range. I probably could have nosed it in just a little bit more to get, I guess, a better cross range capability out of this thing, but I'm still kind of getting a feel for it, and I think really what I'm going to end up doing is just repeating these shuttle flights, these 3 Kerbal low Earth orbit contracts, until I can get it right. So I think we've put an SKS down on a runway once. I think we put a Mark 5 Shuriken down on a runway once. Well, there was an RTLS on an SKS shuttle once. I guess that doesn't really count, but kind of, because we did get it back to the runway at the launch site. So, yeah, that was the thing. But yeah, I don't think I've put a C down on a runway ever. I don't know if I've done it with the Mark 6K either. So that's on my list of goals. But the reentry and the glide slope on this thing is just absolutely beautiful, and a nice beautiful day as we cross over the Gulf of California and on into Mexico. Our speed is just a tad bit low. I would like to see about 6.5 to 7 solid kilometers per second when we cross into Mexico, so that we can be at about 5 when we leave Mexico, but no, we're down to about 4.2. So in the interest of not killing any more Kerbals today, we have decided to divert to our alternate landing site in somewhere Louisiana or Mississippi, depending on where we land. So we braked hard for the north and just steered ourselves in nice and gentle. Only a few flamey effects, and yeah, you can see how much we were able to divert our track there, and it is quite impressive how much deflection we can do just coming back down from an orbital speed. So now we're just going to straighten it out that we are over land, presumably, and probably a collection of lakes in there somewhere that everyone was assuming I would just land in because karma or something, before we can find ourselves a nice runway and then start to do some braking turns and get ourselves lined up for even a fake runway approach is still a runway, at least to this space program. So cloud cover being nice and low and what it was, we were finally able to see the runway as we were pretty much on top of it, and put the shuttle down nice and gentle and get the crew recovered. And then we will jump back to our launch pad where we are launching a resupply pod out to our M97 lunar station on the surface. This contains fuel and a little bit of life support supplies, just to make sure they can stay up and running for at least the full year duration of their intended mission before we cycle out the crew. And also to make sure that the next crew that comes down has enough fuel to leave should something go tragically wrong, which is unfortunately not an uncommon occurrence. This is an older DN6 model, still using the B upper stage. This supply pod really needs to get upgraded to the Delta. We do have, no, this is the old supply pods that we were reusing from our Rosalina Memorial Station. It was also on the lunar surface. We have versions of these that we use for the orbital resupply also of Tremonia Station, Hotel Coast Cosmos, etc. But they are heavy enough that we can't really sling them to Mars. There's no place really to put a heat shield. Our supply pods for interplanetary do look quite a bit different. But there is orbital insertion. We did have to use a little bit of oomph from that B upper stage just to get us in orbit, and now we will perform our about face, making sure our radiators are on. We're not going to lose too much of this liquid hydrogen on the way out there, and then burn for broke. Just a little bit over 3 kilometers per second required for us to hit orbit, so it looks like we hopefully will be taking the rest of this B upper stage with us. It's nice to keep the solar panels attached. They do provide quite a big boost in our power supply, making sure that we can keep the comms on, etc., etc. There's also some battery or something in there somewhere. Anyway, it's nice to keep the B upper stage with us all the way there. It helps keep the light on, singular, just one, and all things running. And also, it's nice to be able to use that really high TWR of that HG3 engine to start that lunar insertion burn, even if we only have, what was this, 28 meters per second left in this stage. So I think we actually will be abandoning it. Yeah, that's why we're adjusting our course to be on an impact trajectory, so we can use those solar panels to get us all the way out to the moon and keep us all nice and powered up. And then, oh yeah, we have to make an inclination change to bring us over the station, since it's very, very, very southern hemispheric. So we're going to try to dial that in. That's coming down to like 120 some odd meters per second. So I guess we're going to use the rest of this B upper stage for that. There it is. Very quick burn, stage sep, and engine ignition. Good news is that B upper stage will still impact the moon, so we'll get some good seismic data there. It's probably about the 1,000th thing we've slammed into the moon before, so yeah, I don't know. I guess it's an experiment worth repeating. And now it comes time for our orbital insertion burn, just 700 some odd meters per second. Now, that 5.4 kilometers per second you're seeing there on the Mech Jeb window is a little deceiving, because this is intended to be a fuel resupply pod. It just happens to be supplying the same fuels that the engine uses. So we're really hoping to keep as much of that on tap as possible, because we will need it for our Lunar Uber 2 to make its turn trip to Hotel Coast Cosmos. While it's nice to have it available to us, the runtime on the engine is only about 8 minutes, and it's almost a hard and fast 8-minute stop. We're using test flight. There was no test light config back here in KSP 1.1.3, so we really just have to be at the mercy of Agathor and random number Jesus. So there is our second inclination burn, putting us on a terminal descent trajectory. So now we can actually start to dial this in. We'll set up a few maneuver nodes here to try to guesstimate our run times and how much oomph it's going to take to actually put us over our target as low as possible and bring us to a nice full and complete stop. And here's the cool, weird visual thing about crossing pole on the moon. We are actually facing perfectly retrograde, but the moon rotating underneath us, and at that speed that it rotates, it really looks like we're just like turning in a circle. Kind of a cool thing we just talked about for a few minutes there. So we've made our last adjustment burn to bring us over the target and overdone it by just a little bit. So we'll try to give it another little nudge as we are on approach, and then we will start our final descent and braking burn, which yeah, it really looks like I just completely overshoot. There's our target, and here's us flying well past our target. Good job, Crash. We were able to bring it to a stop and do an about face just overhead, and then comes all of the nice correction burns as we try to bring ourselves down right on top of the target, because it's just way easier to refuel that way. So render range will cost us a few seconds here. This massively sped up footage as we try very desperately to bring this in a whole lot closer. There's gear deploy. There's an overcorrection. Oh, I was so tired. Anyway, I'm going to turn it over to old me for the landing itself. I really don't want to park it and drive out to it. There's a big hill here somewhere. Again, too soon. Plus spool up time. It's the spool time that gets me. Every time. Oh, engine failure. Oh, please bounce. Okay. Worse things have happened. we got most of it. Just Nimin, you jinxed it. Chuck a small ball of metal into another interstellar body and hit within a couple kilometers of the bullseye. It's still pretty much sub MOA. So there was some hustle done to try to get this thing hooked up to the station, but unfortunately KSP crashed. And then I figured out that we don't really need to, because when I land the next Lunar Uber after a crew rotation, we can just park it closer to that and refuel that way. Maybe we'll move stuff around as needed, but the fact of the matter is we don't need to right now. So yeah, there was a whole lot of everything you see after this point is kind of completely useless, because it was just me being so tired I didn't know which way was up or how to think critically or problem solve. So yeah, that was a thing. Definitely. Anyway, so this actually concludes our RP-0 section of Extra Life 2020, which I'm sure I've mentioned it before. It was the most successful Extra Life we have ever done. We raised over $1,000 for children's hospitals and had a whole lot of fun doing it. I honestly don't think I've had that much fun doing Extra Life ever, and Extra Life is literally like the highlight of my year. I absolutely love it. It's the most fun thing I think I ever really do, honestly. And so from everyone here, thank you so much to everybody who come and hung out in the chat or just lurked or threw into the hat a little bit. Y'all are pretty awesome, and I can't thank you enough. So that's going to do it for this one, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see all of you in the next one. So until then, see you later.